Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft Office Add-ins Community Call. My name is David Chesnut, and I'm your host for this call. As you can see from this title, we've got a lot to talk about today, so let's jump into the agenda. Our presenters for today are Sudheer Maremanda, who's going to talk about some WebView 2 update information, and Matt Geimer, who's going to talk to us about some M365 App Certification rollout, and also Abid, Rahman, who's going to talk about some new features around keyboard shortcuts and contextual tabs, and Courtney, Owen, who's going to demo debugging background add-ins, and then finally we'll have some Q&A. Just a reminder as we go along, if you have questions, just type them into the chat, and we answer those questions as we go along. If there's some questions we don't get to, we always post a summary in a blog after the call, and we'll answer all questions there. And also just a reminder, please keep your microphones muted so that we don't have any distractions while the presenters are presenting. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our first agenda item, the WebView 2 update. Sudheer?
Fantastic. Thanks, David. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. So again, excited to be here. I've been here, I think, since I want to say May about WebView 2 updates. So many of you probably already know we're getting ready to ship the new the Edge runtime, the runtime behind Edge out to general availability. This engine is called WebView 2. This is the Chromium-based engine that is currently available as part of the Edge browser. Will become available soon as part of the Office platform for Office add-ins, if you will. So really, I just have one slide over here, just again a big call to action. The GA for WebView 2 integration is planned with the November fork. So by the end of this month, we will be shipping a fork of Office 365, or at least as of now, we plan to ship a fork of Office 365. That's going to have WebView 2 as the default runtime, or the default engine, if you will, for Office add-in scenarios. There is still time to give feedback. I've been asking for feedback since May. We've received a ton of feedback already. Thank you for everybody who's sort of taken the time to test this and give us feedback. But there's still time to give feedback. We've already published a blog out there. If you just search for Office add-ins with WebView 2, or I've got a link over here, right here on this page, that sort of gives you instructions on how to go and install WebView 2 runtime and test it with your scenario, if you will, and give us feedback in terms of anything that's working or things don't look right, whatever it is. Just we'd love to hear from you on how things are working out for you. Again, just give us feedback on GitHub. If you can tag your area as Edge WebView 2, that would be fantastic. So really, I just wanted to jump in over here and reiterate that message. Again, if I'd love actually to spend maybe a couple of minutes from anybody on the call. If they have any feedback or questions or thoughts on this, I'd love to hear from you right now. I will say, as you folks are potentially typing in the questions, I will say the starting with in January, when an end user installs Office, we will automatically install the WebView 2 runtime as well as part of the overall Office installation. We think this is the quickest and fastest way to sort of start the adoption of WebView 2. So that's also coming down the line, but it's going to be another month or a couple of months, if you will, when we start rolling that out.
I'll also put any links from these slides into when we do our blog summary afterwards. I put the links in there as well, in the resources section on the blog.
Okay, so Michael has a question around WebView 2 cannot handle HTTP auth 401 challenge in a task name. Will these be resolved by GA? I will take a look at that GitHub issue, Michael, and I will follow up with you offline. But this is exactly the stuff that we're looking for in terms of making sure that we've got a great GA and making sure that all of your scenarios are sort of accounted for as we GA. Will all Office 365 subscribers be using WebView 2 runtime in 6 months time frame? I hope that is the case. Again, how our customers, your customers and our customers sort of deploy WebView 2, deploy updates to Office is different. So it may be 6 months, it may be closer to a year, depending on the type of customer, if you will. But certainly, as I mentioned, like starting January, we'll start seeing more and more people deploying the WebView 2 runtime. All right, so that's really all I had. Just a really quick CTA for the WebView 2 integration. Again, thank you for everybody who's given feedback so far, and look forward to hearing from you very, very soon if you have any further feedback.
That's awesome. Thanks, Sudheer. And can I ask one more question? When we ask for feedback, is that the Office.js repo on GitHub?
Yes, it
folks
is.
can give feedback? Okay. Just want to be sure folks know. Thank you. And now moving along to Matt Geimer, who's going to talk about the M365 App Certification rollout.
So yeah, I'm here to talk about the Microsoft 365 App Certification rollout for Office add-ins, explicitly Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. Are the areas covered here? And you might be asking, what is Microsoft 365 certification? So it's really a way to give trust and assurance to organizations that are using your add-ins that you as a developer are doing the right things with their data and your practices, which helps them feel good about actually using the solutions in their environments. And there's a large number of areas that are looked at, so we'll go through those, and we'll go through how we kind of start from, I'm just starting build an add-in and I want to submit it to the store, to how do I get to certification and the steps involved. The key thing here is that this has been available for Teams for a little while, and now we are expanding it. It will be available for Partner Center submission very soon. So for, again, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook add-ins, if you're submitting one of those and you want to start looking at certification, it's a great way to increase that assurance to the organizations. So should call out too what the benefits are. So it doesn't cost anything right now. We're covering the cost to earn the cert. And there's a lot of screenshots here for Teams, and this was the same that it will be for the Office add-ins. So you can see here that it does have a badge that's saying like, hey, this app's been certified, it's been reviewed, and then also there's the ability to have a whole bunch of information on the types of things your organization does with the data, and that's the data handling and security compliance. That's one of the steps in this process. So, again, it's free right now. It really helps boost that confidence in, security and privacy for the customers using your add-in. And it can also help do things like reduce the amount of time you spend answering customer questions, because we'll publish this information for you to point people to, and it's standard then across the various add-ins and solutions that exist, so companies can go and take a look at that. There's some branding that we can offer, and there's a little bit more that's with the certification. That it's a pretty nice program. So how do you get to an M365 certification? So we should talk about, there's a whole bunch of words here, and I'm gonna talk about certification, validation, attestation, and verification. So if at some point it feels a little confusing, it's not meant to be. It's just there's different steps for different pieces. And the first thing really is validation. This isn't necessarily part of the certification process, but this is just to get your app inside of the stores, App Source, and that's how you submit through Partner Center. And some of you may be familiar with this already, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But really, this is the way that you get from submitting. You get to getting your app inside of the store, the add-in inside the store. So you need to figure out when you want to launch, because it does take a little bit of time to go through this process. You need to be in Partner Center and have a Partner Center ID. And then there's, make sure you've reviewed all the policies. There are a series of policies around, what you can do for like authentication with SSO as an example, or UI guidelines, or does your add-in work in certain configurations or not. So there's definitely, it's worthwhile to review those policies. And then from there, you should also check that your manifest is correct. And so that is, we have some tools that'll help you do that, because if your manifest has, the incorrect XML or includes some tag it shouldn't, or violates one of those policies, then it's going to automatically be rejected, and you're going to have to fix that. And from there, you can go through and decide what platforms you want to support. You make sure that you have all your information ready for your links, for EULAs and privacy and support links. And then you start submitting it inside the Partner Center, where you're going to actually submit it, and you'll get you'll send some notes for testing. And then what happens is there'll be some testing that happens, and if there's policy violations or failures, you'll get to go through the submission process again after you fix them or provided the appropriate pieces of information to let the team know why that happened, or maybe it's just a simple issue to be fixed. And this is how you get from I have an add-in to I have an add-in that's in the App Store and App Source. So like inside Office in the App Store, and then also in App Source. So that's validation. So that's part. I'm calling this out because you have to have an app that's inside of App Source to do certification. So once you've done this validation process, great, awesome. Now you can start working on the process for Microsoft 365 certification, and that is this 3-step process. And I'll call out, I have an asterisk on the Azure AD publisher verification. So this is really and we'll look at this in the next slide, this is not necessarily required right now. If you meet the criteria where this would make sense, you should definitely do it. But as of right now, it's not necessarily required. So there's 3 steps, which is the Azure AD publisher verification. Then there's what's called self-attestation or publisher attestation, which has been available for a while, and you can do that right now. So that's not new, but it is required. That is required to get to the next step, which is the Microsoft 365 certification. So let me go through what each of these looks like. So we have Azure AD publisher verification. You still have to, the same thing. We have to have the Microsoft Partner Network ID, and this is explicitly for apps that are, service side for like Graph or other Azure AD pieces. They're registered inside Azure AD as multi-tenant, and they use OAuth too. So this is enabling more of a service to be verified that the service is really who it says it is. And this may not show up inside an add-in at all, but it is worthwhile, and definitely you should do it if you have a service that meets these requirements and is part of the broader certification program. So we won't spend much more time on this, but it's definitely worth checking out. If you have a service that meets these criteria, you should look into doing this. So if you met the criteria for that, you do that, great. You need to then move on to publisher attestation, or what's called, again, you might have heard self-attestation. And this attestation is saying, hey, like, here's a whole bunch of data that I'm going to submit around like what I do for security and compliance, and just a whole bunch of information that the customers that you interact with probably want to know already. And so what this is going to do is it's going to enable you to put this in a single place. We publish this data. It's available on our documents page. It's definitely a great way for you to have just a single spot you can point folks to. So you go and do this, and this is again filling out some information. This is the step before we get to certification. And you can see here, this is again just kind of showing what it looks like. If you see the publisher attested column there for Teams in this case, again, it is available right now already for the add-ins. So you can also go check out that. You can see here's what it looks like when you do that step, the publisher attestation. I know some folks have done that. So if you've done it, awesome. If you haven't done it, you should think about doing it. It's really a great way to communicate this information, and it then enables you to go to the next step, which is Microsoft 365 certification. So to actually do the certification, we have a nice kind of step here like we did for the validation, which is you do the publisher attestation, you read the certification guide, you make sure you meet those control requirements, and I'll go over what we look at in a minute here. And then you go ahead and do the initial document submission. There'll be a whole period that you'll start working through the certification assessment. Then you send that evidence to, we use a third party to do the assessment. And then if they need you to clarify, you go ahead and clarify and provide additional evidence. And then after all that's done, you've gone through that process, you can get your certification awarded. And it's a good call out that, hey, there is a 60-day period in which this must be completed. So it can't take more than 60 days from start to finish. and you must be publisher attested or self-attested prior to being awarded this. So you can start working on it at the same time. It definitely is a requirement. And here's the areas that the certification is actually looking at. And so it's, looking at, hey, what's your application security? Do you have any of these compliance frameworks? Which those compliance frameworks are definitely places that are we pulled some controls and other things from to take a look and determine whether or not it can be Microsoft 365 certified. So, it doesn't automatically guarantee it, but if you are one of those, it definitely helps. And there's some shortcuts that then, if you can provide that data to the certification process, then it will definitely help move it along a little faster. And so, we're really just trying to have the ability for you to provide as much data as possible and send it off to that third party that we work with through Partner Center to enable that certification. And so once that's done, you get awarded the certification, which we'll come back to our benefits. It's hey, it doesn't cost anything. It really helps add some confidence in the security and privacy of your application and gives you a centralized place to put that information, so you don't have to continually hand that out to customers as they're asking for it. We badge, add a badge, and on-site app source, and then it should be showing up in the store. I don't have a date quite yet, but it's coming soon. We're working on it for the in-client store. It is on App Source. And then again, we give you a branding pack to help promote that as well. So really the thing to do is to start looking at the aka.ms app certification link today. That takes you to the documentation on what the certification process is and the data required. And it should be rolling out to Partner Center in the next week or two, probably. It's very, very close. So definitely start looking into doing app certification and help your customers feel great about your add-ins. All right, I'm done. So on to keyboard shortcuts.
Thanks, Matt. So I believe up next is Abid.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Thanks for joining us. So my name is Abid. I'm a PM here on the Office Platform team, and I'm here to talk to you today about keyboard shortcuts and contextual tabs. So just a little caveat before we get into things here. So both of these features are just for Excel right now, but I think as part of this announcement, we would also love to see and love to get more knowledge around what are some of these scenarios that you might have for these on other applications such as Word and PowerPoint. And if we do hear a lot of feedback, then of course we can invest in those applications as well. So I'll start off by talking about keyboard shortcuts, and then we'll head into the contextual tabs. I'm here to announce that keyboard shortcuts is now in public preview for Office add-ins for Excel add-ins. So a few things to talk about here. Keyboard shortcuts. Why do we feel this is such an important feature? So essentially, you can use keyboard shortcuts to invoke any actions in your add-in. So a few of these scenarios that we've had in our mind is, for example, opening and closing the task pane. You can use a keyboard shortcut to do that. You can use it to fetch data for the cell that the user might have selected. Users can use keyboard shortcuts to apply custom formatting, opening a dialog, resetting settings, essentially anything that any ribbon button can do right now, you can essentially invoke using a keyboard shortcut. And this is important for a couple of reasons, because one, from an accessibility standpoint, it makes your add-ins incredibly more accessible to those that either aren't able to use a mouse or don't have access to a mouse right now, as well as it makes things more efficient for users. So we've heard from a lot of different scenarios, especially in the financial sector, that folks that are using those add-ins, they don't necessarily have time. Some folks don't even use the mouse at all, just to be more efficient in their day-to-day work. So when you're creating or building up worksheets and you do things that are very repetitive, it can help to have keyboard shortcuts binded to those actions so that you can do those very quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to jump into here on how Oracle, which is one of our private partners, have incorporated keyboard shortcuts into their add-ins. So this was a video made by Shaji, and we presented this as part of one of our Ignite sessions on Excel developers. This just shows how Oracle uses keyboard shortcuts today.
Working with an application for this is an item we have been waiting for a long time. Support for shortcut keys.
Yes, working.
With an application for data entry or analysis, it's not greatly convenient to move your mouse to the ribbon and come back to the cells just to perform an action like refresh latest data from your application or to do data submits. Now you can use keyboard shortcuts to perform these operations. Let's take a look at how SmartView is using this to do ad hoc analysis. You'll select a member. I can navigate the hierarchy or drill into the children of year total or do zoom in by doing a Control-Shift-I. I can zoom out by doing a Control-Shift-O. I can focus on one member by doing a Control-Shift-K. I can move members to the left by doing a Control-Shift-Left. I can move the members up. I can pivot my scenarios to the column by doing a Control-Shift-P.
So as we saw there, Oracle was using keyboard shortcuts to kind of zoom in and out of their data that they had in that worksheet. So how do we think about these from an Office add-in perspective? So we have keyboard shortcuts that are binded to actions that you have in your Office add-ins, and those actions will have corresponding JavaScript code inside your actual Office add-in runtime. I can dive into the code and show you how this is actually done. So there are three main steps here in incorporating shortcuts into your add-in. The first one, we need to modify the existing XML manifest to include a link to a JSON file. And this JSON file will have those definitions of what our keyboard combinations are, as well as what those actions are that we want to invoke. So this is that JSON file that I have linked from my XML manifest. And there's a few reasons that we are adding a new XML element to be able to host these definitions. And the first major benefit is that now you won't have to actually update your XML manifest in order to update those keyboard shortcuts that you have defined. You can simply update that JSON file, and since it's a satellite file, you won't have to resubmit your XML manifest and go through that entire validation process again. So this kind of adds a bit more flexibility in how you can essentially update these keyboard shortcuts that you have and the length of time it takes for your users to be able to use them. So now that I have in that JSON file a list of the actions and the shortcuts I want to invoke, the example here, as you can see, is a show task pane. So if I'm looking at that JSON file, you'll notice that the action is show task pane. I have a name for that action, which says it shows the task pane for the add-in. So this is a display name that in later iterations may be shown to the user in certain scenarios. So for example, if there are conflicts between add-ins, we might use that action name to ask the user which action they want to actually invoke. And there'll be more details around that in upcoming community calls. And then below the action definition, you'll notice the actual shortcuts. So here I have a link to the action that I've defined by saying show task pane as the action name, and then I have a key. So this key is the keyboard shortcut combination that I actually want to use in order to invoke this action. So now that I jump over to actually my code itself, you can see that in app.js, so this is any JavaScript file that's linked to your function file element. And don't feel like that you're getting too overwhelmed by all these steps. I'll have links to both a sample as well as a documentation that can help clarify what you need to do to add these keyboard shortcuts to your add-ins. But going back to the code on the right-hand side, you'll notice that what I'm doing here is just linking the actual callback function to the action that I have defined in my JSON. All right, so I was going to show a quick demo here of the actual keyboard shortcuts PNP demos. What I have here, so I have the PNP. I'll have this linked in the slides as well as in the chat. So all I've done here is clone this down to my desktop, and then I ran npm run start web. And what this does is just boot up the local dev server. And I can actually, I'll show you here in my manifest, I've included that new XML element that's going to point to my JSON file. So if you open up this JSON file, you'll notice that since my dev server is already running, I can access it in my local host. And this has a list of all the actions as well as all the shortcuts that we have in our PNP demo. So jumping into a new file in Excel, I can go ahead and sideload that add-in. So going to the add-in dialog, upload my add-in, browse. And right now I am in that PNP Office add-ins repo. In samples, in Excel keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to go ahead and pick that manifest. All right, so once it's sideloaded, you can actually go ahead and use the keyboard shortcuts right away. So one of the shortcuts was Control-Shift-Up. So I'm going to press Control-Shift-Up, and it's going to open up this task pane. So as you can see, there's a few sample shortcuts here that you can try. Control-Shift-Up to show, Control-Shift-Down to hide, and then we added one for cell formatting, which is Control-Shift-O. So I can press Control-Shift-O in this cell, and it will go through a bunch of different colors for this cell. And then I'll go ahead and press Control-Shift-Down, and it will actually hide that task pane. And then Control-Shift-Up to show it again. So that's a quick demo of the actual shortcuts PNP. And as I said before, we'll have it linked so that you can play around with it yourself, and then you can dive into the code and actually see what that shortcuts JSON file looks like, how we have it linked up together, and how to make keyboard shortcuts work for your add-in. So these are the links to that PNP that I just showed you, as well as the documentation. Just a bit to note about the documentation, we are working on getting that up live. It may not be live as of right now, but it should be by end of day today. So a few things to note for shortcuts. Shortcuts is in public preview, so please do not use it on any production application. Please give it a try right now. Let us know if you have any feedback on the design, on any bugs or issues that you're facing, so that we can improve on this before we go to GA. One thing to note as well, that we have a limitation that shortcuts will not work if the focus is inside of the add-in UI. So for example, as an end user, if my mouse is inside of the task pane itself, Excel is not able to handle any of those keyboard presses. So the actual focus has to be within Excel applications, so it has to be within the worksheet in order for the actions to get invoked. And the last thing I want to call out is this is just for Excel. So if you have any scenarios on PowerPoint, on Word, on Outlook, please do let us know, reach out to us so that we can work together to bring that to life. Awesome. So that's all I have for shortcuts. I know there's a bunch of questions in the chat, and I'll work through those questions right after we go through contextual tabs. So contextual tabs API is also another new feature that's on its way to public preview. One thing to know for contextual tabs, it is also for Excel only. It will have public preview for Windows at the end of this month, and then we'll follow that up with Mac at the end of December, as well as for online in Q1 of next calendar year. I'll go through this very quickly now, since you're not actually able to play with it. So hopefully in upcoming community calls, we'll have live demos that we can show you actually using contextual tabs itself. So what are contextual tabs? So as you can see in the top picture that I have here, we have native contextual tabs today in Excel, and one of the most common ones is shape format. So when you insert a shape into Excel, PowerPoint, or Word, you'll notice that there's a new tab that comes up into the ribbon called shape format. So this is a contextual tab. This is a native contextual tab, and this tab is only shown on certain contexts. So for example, in this case, it's only shown if that shape is selected. So the same idea we're bringing over to Office add-ins. So as you can see in the bottom one, Office add-ins right now can add custom tabs. So for example, that tab A1, you can add that using the XML manifest itself. And once the add-in is installed, it will show up in the ribbon. However, what we're doing with contextual tabs is we're adding the ability for you to have multiple tabs and for you to be able to show and hide them based on context in your add-in. So very similar, exactly the same thing essentially as what you see the behavior is like with that shape format tab. And this can be very helpful for add-ins, especially in the case for add-ins that have grown over the last couple of years that may have 60 or 70 different app commands. And not all app commands are essentially helpful to users at every single time. So it helps to show some app commands and hide some other app commands depending on the context that the user is in. This is another video from Oracle that we showed during Ignite as well.
Now let's drill into some additional capabilities that we are working on. In order to provide a great user experience, we want to show users only those actions that are relevant in the context of the data the user imported. Leveraging the contextual tabs functionality, we are able to do so. Here I have logged into Office Online. I'm going to select Smart View tab. In the Smart View ribbon tab, we are showing only the buttons that are specific to the Smart View tab. We also have disabled some of the ribbon items that are not applicable till we have established connection to our application. Next, we will open a data entry form. Consider a data entry form to be a predefined table or a report set up by an administrator or a form designer. You will notice that a new context ribbon named Planning is open. All the buttons shown here are relevant to this particular data entry form. I'm going to enter some cell note into financial year 20. Next, I'm going to open a new worksheet to do some analysis using the Analyze button. It's going to start an ad hoc analysis sheet. It creates a new ribbon tab named Planning Ad Hoc. Here we try to maintain the same user experience like in COM add-in and name the tab as Planning Ad Hoc. All the ribbon items displayed here are button used analysis like zooming to next level, zoom out, keep only some members, remove only, etc. As a developer with this functionality, I can present our users with the ribbons that are always in context to the application that they are currently working on. I can switch between these sheets and the context changes based on the sheet I'm in.
So as you saw there, that was Oracle's use case in using these contextual tabs to kind of limit what you're showing to your user depending on the context that they are in. So there's two new APIs that contextual tabs is introducing. The first one is request create controls. And what this does is you're able to call this just once during your add-in lifetime. And this will essentially create or add up to 10 custom contextual tabs. And then we have a second API called request update, which you'll be able to use to essentially show or hide the status of each of those tabs, depending on the context that the user is in. So you'll notice that we have taken the API approach here as well in creating those contextual tabs. And this goes back to the reason I was talking about before, is this gives you that flexibility to be able to make changes to your ribbon without actually having to change your XML manifest and going through the entire validation process. So that's one big benefit of using these contextual tabs APIs. There will be more details as we move towards public preview. Please do keep an eye on our blog series and upcoming community calls to get to know exactly when we are releasing contextual tabs into public preview. But as I've said before, it should be there for Windows at the end of this month. So that's all I had from my end here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. I'll be working through the questions in the chat.
Thank you, Abid. That was great. So next up, we have Courtney Owen about sideloading and debugging Outlook add-ins.
Hello, everyone. I'm Courtney Owen from the Office Developer Experience team. And today I'm going to demo Outlook sideloading and debugging. So what do I mean by sideloading? Sideloading is the ability to automatically register an add-in without having to go through the manual steps. In the past, we've supported sideloading for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but never for Outlook. And so right now, if you were to try and sideload a Outlook add-in project, you would see this. You would get an error saying sideload is not supported on this host. And that's kind of not ideal for developers because they want to be able to run npm start and be able to start up their dev server, sideload their add-in, and have Outlook boot. And so they can quickly verify that their add-in is up and running. Well, we've made local changes recently that should be checked in soon that will now allow you to sideload Outlook. So I'm going to show you here real quick on my developer machine how that works. So I have the same add-in, and I'm going to run the same command, npm start. This time no error, and we boot Outlook and show you this warning message. This warning message is just to let you know that we're going to register an add-in, and we're doing this for security purposes, so someone doesn't potentially maliciously install an add-in on a user's machine. We see this as very much an edge case, but we wanted to protect the user nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and I have my add-in now. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is debugging. So before I click on Show Task Pane, I want to tell you a little bit about the Outlook debugging experience in the past, or lack thereof. Outlook uses background add-ins extensively, such as commands and background on send. The problem with trying to debug these types of add-ins is that their WebView instance can expire very quickly, and a developer doesn't have time to attach the debugger before the WebView instance expires. So you can't debug it. So what we've done is come up with a very slick, simple solution that will give the developer a chance to attach to the WebView instance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on Show Task Pane, and that's going to bring up a dialog here. And it's telling you that, hey, we've created a WebView instance, and you can now attach to it before we execute the JavaScript code. So I'm going to go over to VS Code here, and I'm going to attach the debugger to that WebView instance. Then I'm going to say OK here. And you see, we hit in the debugger here, and this is the actual task pane loading. So I'll continue here, and we've got the task pane loading. Now I'm going to actually execute the task pane run function. Once again, we hit the debugger here. Okay, so that's cool. So that's a task pane add-in. Now I want to show you the background add-in case, which has always been very difficult, if not impossible, to debug, unless you go through Outlook Online. So in this instance, I'm going to run a command. And once again, it's going to bring up that dialog. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to select this instance and say OK. And it's going to hit the command code here. Go back here. I can execute it again, and we hit it in the debugger again. Now, I want to show you the final case here, and this has always been the one that's really never been possible to debug, and this is the background on send case. Now, the background on send case, once the JavaScript code executes, it expires, the WebView instance expires immediately. There's no possibility that you're going to be able to attach the debugger in time. So I have a add-in here that's going to run that validates that this email is sendable. And this is a test account I'm using here, so this is not my official Outlook account. And I'm going to click send. It's going to bring up a dialog here saying you can attach the debugger. So I'm going to go back again, and I'm going to attach to this instance. And I'm going to go OK. And it's going to hit the breakpoints for my validate sendable function here. And I can step through this code. And then you notice that the debugger detaches right away. That's because the WebView instance has officially expired. So had we not brought up that dialog, we never would have been able to attach to it. Now, one thing I want to show you that's really nice about this side loading is that I can make a change to my add-in, and I'll be able to see that change right away without having to go through the cumbersome manual steps of registering an add-in. So I'll close this down here, and I'm going to go to my manifest, and I'm just going to add the word demo in here. Save it, and then we'll side load again. warns you again. We go back to our task pane here, and we see the new title here, demo, in here. So this is a really nice way to be able to make quick changes and verify them without having to go through all those manual steps, such as get add-in, my add-in, add a custom add-in, add from file. That can get to be really tedious and time-consuming for a developer. So I want to show you the final case, which is doing everything from within VS Code. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit my launch.config file. So we will boot, Outlook, sideload, and attach the debugger all at once. So I'm going to click this here. Let you know that there's an attempt to register an add-in. You say OK. And we hit the debugger. Everything done within VS Code. So that's a really nice scenario for a developer to be able to do all their developing and debugging all in the same tool. So that's about all I have for the demo. This code is all local on my own machine, but it should be ready to check in pretty soon. And I would imagine by the first of the year, this should be available for users in production. Thank you, and that's the end of my demo.
Cool, thanks, Courtney.
Yep.
Okay, so our community spotlight for the month. This is a slide where we just take a second to recognize folks that have been helping us on our open source efforts in the community. And once again, Martin Van Stam has been helping us out on the PNP repo with looking at PRs and such and doing reviews. And I just wanted to mention it would be great. We'd love to see more folks on this community spotlight. So I just want to point out, you can participate and help out fellow developers by going to GitHub, and we have several repos there where you can definitely help out. We have the documentation, Office.js docs PR. There's the PNP samples, PNP Office add-ins. There's Office.js where folks can ask questions, and if you want to help answer any questions that come up, that's great. And if you participate, we'll be sure to recognize you in the community spotlight. You can submit a PR or help review a PR or answer an issue or things like that. So definitely go check those out if you get a chance. And then moving on to the Q&A. So for folks that have submitted questions via the form, what I do is I take those questions and share them with the team and work to get answers. So just kind of taking a moment to go through these. There's been several questions, actually. I'm going to work on this top one here. Is there a roadmap for upcoming features and changes? And this has come up on previous Q&As as well. So I just want to point out, we have a few resources you can check if you're trying to keep an eye on what's coming up. There's our Microsoft 365 developer blog, which I can show you here. Here we go. And when we have new features coming out, like if it's contextual tabs or shortcut keys, things have been shown on this call, we typically will have a blog post about it out here. So that's a thing to keep an eye on. We also have this Microsoft 365 roadmap where you can go through and look for things that are coming up and filter by products and releases and such. I am working to get a link for this that I can put in our blog summary afterwards so that you can just go here and find stuff easier, because it's kind of a lot to filter through here if you're just specifically looking for Office add-ins. But this is another resource that's available. And obviously, there's also this call. So if you've been tuning in monthly, you know that we're always announcing preview stuff that's coming up and talking about roadmap stuff. So hopefully that helps there. Another person asked if there was a recent change, or they're just pointing out, there was a recent change to Exchange on-premise OA, where if a security update had not been installed on the server within 2 days, the add-ins stopped working. And so they're wondering if we can improve communication of such changes. Sound like this caught some folks by surprise. And this was a case where the security update was one of those things where we couldn't really communicate much about it because of the nature of the security threat. But we are looking, I chatted with the team about this. And they said, yeah, we're looking to work on a way to improve the communication on those. So thanks for letting us know. And then there's also a question about if there's plans to add add-in support to Word and Excel on iOS and Android. And also, will Outlook support add-ins for Gmail accounts? These, there's nothing specific to mention around here right now. I would just say this is kind of a usual response when there's feature requests. Please go out on user voice to our user voice site, which I'll have a link to later, and let us know if there's already requests for these. Just go upvote it, and we take a look at those when we're doing our quarterly planning to see where we're going to invest in the future. So just go let us know on user voice. Same thing for this. There's also a question, in the new Outlook for Mac experience, can support be added for add-in individual buttons to be displayed on the ribbon rather than grouped under an add-in icon? And yeah, again, just let us know on user voice. Tell us more about these scenarios so that we can understand how best to support them going forward. There's a couple more questions that came up. The question came in, will there be support for admins to automatically pin add-ins to the taskbar in the new Outlook for Mac UI? Right now, we don't have a capability for add-ins to be pinned by admins. However, users can customize their own toolbar and pin add-ins, and the team tells me that we're exploring various measures such as a first-run experience and pinning frequently used add-ins to improve add-in discoverability. And then there's this lengthy question. I was trying to figure out how to shorten this question, but it's just kind of lengthy. For EWS with on-premises Exchange, my Outlook add-in gets a bearer token with get callback token async, and the endpoint from the property office.context.mailbox.ews URL. When the external and internal EWS URL differ, the token correctly targets the external EWS URL confirmed by its audience claim. But the EWS URL is almost always the internal EWS URL, so the endpoint can't be called from a third-party service like my server, and even if it could, the token would be invalid. So is there an additional requirement to get or set the external EWS URL when running on an on-premises mailbox? So I reached out to the team on this, and they said this is one of those cases where we really need some more information. So we need to know like the client version, the server version, and some repro steps. So if you could open an issue on GitHub, we can follow up there. I'll post a link to where on GitHub in the blog summary afterwards for this particular question. And there was one more question, and I just realized I didn't get it on the slide here. Someone was asking about a OneNote add-in. There was some documentation they're following that was not working for them. And I checked with the OneNote team in case that person's listening on this call, just so you know, yeah, there is a bug. They confirmed there's a bug and they're working on it. So I will post some more details about that in the blog summary afterwards as well. So let me just finish up with some of these slides here. So if you want to present on one of these calls, like you have something really awesome you'd love to share with your fellow developers, we've had customer presentations before and they're always great. Just let us know. There's a aka.ms link here, Office Add-ins Engage, that takes you out to a forum where you can give us some information about yourself and your email address and what the topic is you'd like to present on. And let us know and we'll reach out to you and get in touch. Those are always great to share. If you're new to Office add-ins, here's a link to our documentation, as well as some getting started. We have 5-minute quick starts listed out on the right side there in a variety of the different host apps. Definitely go check it out and jump in. Also, there's a link there if you're looking to automate Excel tasks. You can check out Office Scripts. There's an aka.ms link for Office Scripts docs. And some additional developer resources. We have the Microsoft 365 Developer Program, and there's a link to that. If you're serious about developing Office add-ins, this is a great resource to have because it gives you a free tenant for developing and testing your Office add-ins. So highly recommended. There's also a link to ScriptLab, which is a great resource if you're just trying things out. You don't necessarily want to go build a full project. You can just try it out in the context of ScriptLab in the host app itself. Also links to our Office add-ins documentation, custom functions. In terms of getting in touch with the developer team, you can go to Stack Overflow if you have questions. We also have Office.js. If you find like product issues, bugs you want to report, as well as Outlook web add-ins, Office scripts. And User Voice, there's a link for the User Voice site if you have requests for new features, or if you want to see what other people are requesting and either upvote those or not. And there's also Send a Smile or Frown inside Office itself. This is, of course, not the only developer community call we have. We have lots of calls about various products and platforms. So if any of these are interesting to you, definitely go check them out. There's always good information being shared on these every month, in some cases bi-weekly. And finally, just to wrap things up, just saying thank you to everybody for participating. We post a recording of this soon after this particular call out on the Microsoft 365 Developer YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev. And these calls are the second Wednesday of every month. So the next one will be December 9th at 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. If you don't have the invite, there's a link there, the AKA MS Office Add-ins Community Call. And again, if you have some questions ahead of time you want to get looked at and answered on the call, you can go to the aka.ms Office Add-ins forum. So once again, thanks everyone for participating. Hope you enjoyed this call, and we will see you on the next one, December 9th. Thanks.